Well, tell me about your lesson, Miss Lovely. How do you think it went?
I think it went really well. I think that the part of relating like forest fires to that Yarnell fire up in Prescott, I think it showed them that they could actually it could actually happen. They're not just reading a story for the sense of we're reading another story out of the treasures book. We're reading a story that based on something that really happened in real life, and I think it also helped them understand like this is what nonfiction is. So I think relating it back was to like a real world event kind of really hit home for them. Some of them, got kind of sad when it talks about the firefighters, but it showed that this really happens in our neck of the woods, and relating it. It's not very far from home, and them understanding that really showed them, wow, this is something that could happen.
Yeah, I thought when you showed them that video that it was super powerful to them. They were all extremely engaged. They knew it was happening. They knew it was in the state of Arizona. And that it is a reality when you live here. We have to watch out for wildfires. Like, that's a huge thing. So I think it was really awesome that you brought that reality to them and really connected it to their life. But I was wondering, because of they're so engaged, have you ever thought about starting off your lesson with that video and starting the video that way to kind of pull them in to why I need to read more? Oh, I want to learn more about this because this is so cool or so interesting, or this is in my world.
Yeah, that would actually be a great idea. I think that would make more sense because then it's like getting their attention at the beginning versus then at the end. So yeah, I think that's a simple thing.
Just a little switch, and just maybe think about it as when you think about the elements of effective instruction and the sequence of how you kind of do that lesson, really think about that anticipatory set, because sometimes that's really hard to get a good hook to really get the kids in. And when you can show a video or sing a song or do something first before because you kind of like laid the foundation of, this is really, you need to listen because this is happening in your world. This is what can happen, and you kind of like really, they were super engaged and they wanted more and they had a ton of questions, and that's how you want them to be right before you start a lesson too, So if you can ever think, your students love it when you show them videos. So if you can think of a way to maybe start your lesson that way, if it fits well, I would capitalize on that. And you can always show a video more than once too. I mean, you could show at the beginning, you could maybe show one at the end. So I don't want you to think you can only show media one time. If there's good ways to incorporate it and the students are really engaged by it, then I would capitalize on that as much as possible.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
And you definitely, when you were teaching the reading lesson, your main focus was on main idea and details. So you were really incorporating literacy strategies into your lesson. I thought your teacher modeling, you gave a really good, clear model in the beginning of the lesson. You really wanted the kids to understand, and you're growing with that you're starting to really not let your students be a part of your teacher modeling, that you really know it has to show that metacognitive thinking for them. So they kind of see the sequence of how to find those things, and your models are getting very strong. So you modeled, you went through it, and then because it was a reread, the kids were then able to do the next part on their own. You wanted to go ahead, you did kind of a I do, and then really went right into a you do.
Yes.
And so you went into your you do, and then I saw you go around to check for understanding. Tell me more about that.
So, this has been like an ongoing thing that I have noticed, but then also while I was walking around on the you do part, they are having a hard time grasping the details. They get the main idea, but they are having a hard time knowing that these details what details support the main idea and what like a detail really is. So, and a lot of them are more than probably, I would say probably half the class is struggling with that. So, so then once I saw that, kind of stopped it, and went up to the board and started as a whole group, like kind of doing the we do.
Yes,
part.
You kind of went back into that guided practice because you went out there, you saw that there was still too many strugglers, that it was kind of like a reteach. Okay, they're not quite ready for that release. Let me bring them back. So reflecting back on that, what do you think you might have adjusted differently for next time? Like, what do you think might happen differently?
Well, I think just overall, when I'm teaching main idea in detail, because when I started teaching main idea in detail at the beginning of the year, like this was like the first story, probably the second story they read, second or third story they read. So I didn't have a good grasp to begin with of main idea in detail. And since we changed, I'm just starting to get into that strategy and how to teach that strategy. So I think me understanding these graphic organizers a lot better now, I'll start from the beginning of the year and really be able to teach it better. So I think part of it is because I never taught it well to begin with. But
that's a good reflection, though. That tells you that you're growing, that you're realizing that you've have to understand your content a little more deeply before you can deliver it to kids as well.
So, but in regards to like this particular lesson, me like going back and doing the modeling better, which I can probably, I'm 99% sure I never modeled main idea in detail until this lesson. So me going back and modeling even more, and I should have probably had us do the we do, or at least had them do partner work, knowing they're struggling a little bit with detail, instead of just jumping right into an independent work.
That's a great reflection. I think that's huge for you, and I think you're right. Like you're not really surprised by their lack of understanding because they didn't really have a strong model to begin with. So you've had to kind of go back and reteach that and get stronger with it. So hopefully, as you continue that, you'll see that the results, that they are understanding, that they are getting it more, and I think you will. I really do. And then what was really great is you did tie it into interdisciplinary, because then they took that graphic organizer and then they were able to summarize the story from the graphic organizer. So you got a writing lesson in along with it. So tell me more about that.
So they need to go into third understanding what a paragraph is. It's at least 4 sentences, how to write it on the page, and they should by this point know at least how to write a complete sentence. So I think starting to really tie in these lessons with complete paragraphs is just going to help them be prepared for 3rd grade.
And then you can also, when they wrote about the paragraph, that interdisciplinary about how the world works, or things we need to know, things we need to be aware of, how to keep our world healthy, how to keep the forest safe. They can all, you can also start maybe turn some of those writings into a theme too, to see if they can maybe even develop an opinion about their topic a little bit.
Okay.
Just to kind of get that personal idea of what they think about it as well.
And that's a good idea because, I can have them, journal we read about this story, so, or we read about and talked about, forest fires, so now tell me,
You can even give a sentence. I think preventing forest fires is important because.
Okay.
I think preventing forest fires is not important because, and of course we know they'll probably pick the yes, it's important, but just kind of giving them that, why is it important? What is it about? What do I think? Because that's, as they move, especially Common Core, they move across the continuum, they really want students to use a text and read it, form an opinion, and then base their opinion on the text evidence. So I know preventing forest fires is important because there are men and women who go out there and have to stop these fires and give their lives for it. Maybe that could be a reason. We want to make sure we're keeping more people safe. If we prevent forest fires, then firefighters don't have to go fight fires. If, it's better for the animals if we prevent forest fires from happening. I think that's important because, just so it's kind of giving them, they read something, but then they don't just eat the author's opinion. They kind of start to form their own justification of what they think, but they can use text evidence to support that idea.
Okay.
And that's where they're going. That's where these 2nd graders have to go. So always keeping that too in your mind.
Okay.
And I know you did the project-based learning with the kids. You had them do a outline of how to get out of their house, like an exit from their house in the case there was a fire.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I was thinking, when you talked to me about a word the kids were struggling with. So tell me more about that.
So they were really struggling with when I would ask them what are things we can do to prevent fires. They kept telling me ways they could put out fires and what happens after the fire, like use a fire extinguisher to put out a fire or how to get out of their house. But they weren't understanding what the word prevent and how to keep a fire from happening.
at all, right?
At all.
So I was wondering, like maybe like to extend that to use that maybe for your project based using that word prevention, how to do that, even hooking on to the prefix pre, knowing that means before, and maybe giving them a couple words that connect to the word pre. So maybe they understand prevention means to do something before it happens, right? You don't want it to you want it to not happen. So if you connect maybe that word pre, just that prefix to things, to some other words, maybe they could understand.
So like either will prevent or like precaution or
How about preheat,
okay.
prepay, I have to really think about it. But if you can maybe just use it a couple different ways,
Okay.
that they know, because that's also building a great base for just that word pre. That maybe they can relate it more since they don't really understand it, just giving them some kind of base on words they might understand. And I was wondering, like, using that as a theme, like they could create posters as teams, how to prevent a fire. So maybe, and then seeing through their drawings if they understand still, maybe that's what that means.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good idea. And that would be, I mean, that's a fun activity. They like doing things like that. And it builds team
But yeah,
building.
it's good relationship building in the classroom. And I mean, you could even maybe incorporate a writing assignment into that. Maybe they have to form a paragraph that connects to their picture, explains what's happening. So just, extending those things whenever you can. And like you said, they're really engaged and really into it. So I'd kind of want to keep that momentum going in as many ways as possible. I thought it was a really fun lesson. I think the kids really enjoyed it. Good job, Miss Lawley.
All right, well, thank you.
You're welcome.